So I'm not going to go through this. I just want to put this out in case you're not familiar with test beds. I'm not really a test bed person. I was brought in here because I'm not a test bed person, but there's a long history of some of these test beds. The particular ones in my community and security that are fairly popular is Deter, which you can see at the bottom, kind of in the middle, and Genie. Those are kind of the big elephants in the room of types of test beds. And these test beds, by the way, are open to anybody to get an allocation. But you can see we are in kind of Gen 4. Fabric to do networking and AI ML. Sage is a Argonne, Northwestern U Chicago test bed, which looks at AI at the edge. They deal a lot with how to better collect and process science and ecology and smart city data. And the next generation is quantum. So really getting to which Illinois is just huge in quantum lately. So again, to reimagine the internet, what does this look like? We want it to be more private, more secure. The protocols should be flexible. Compute, storage, and routing throughout it. So thinking about what testbed features will help us develop the ideal internet. I think a lot about internet censorship. And I stole this from a VPN company, this graphic, but really thinking about how many people don't have access to your basic web browsing and internet is something that we feel has to be changed. So how do we build a community of stakeholders? So part of it is just getting with people like you to think about what could you do on this testbed. So it's involving new academic experimenter communities. Previously, it was just networking protocol people or testbed people wanted to do testbeds just for their own paper writing. We're trying to really get more involved with people who think about how to develop better IoT, really interesting things to do with AI, which we'll talk about a little bit, and definitely cybersecurity. And our purpose is to weave all these communities together in one place so that if you have a super cool cybersecurity experiment and you're not really an IoT person, how can you best share the results of that? And that's where we're partnering with people who think about how to best store and share this data so that it's understandable. It's not just a bunch of data in a database. How do they make the results of the experiment understandable to a wide variety of communities? We're really trying to get more industry partners. By that, we mean people who think that they could use this to demonstrate some proof of concept. So if the smart cities folks are trying to look at, how can you share autonomous vehicle data or weather data or things between cities in near real time? We're lucky in Chicago, we have this array of things out of Argonne, Chicago, Northwestern. They really have, for years, wanted to share data in near real time with the UK. Our testbed's going to help them do interesting things to share information between city scale sensors in near real time. Trying to get education partners. So we are currently looking for students, and please drop me an email if you're interested. We have money and we're looking for students, particularly those in underrepresented groups, to help us build the testbed. Next summer, I'm going to host a security hackathon where I want students to come in and try to break it. So we're going to say, you student who's proficient in networking or software, here are some different facets of the testbed. Please, it's not in production yet. Help us try to break it. We're also trying to partner with more non-governmental organizations, particularly those that think about internet freedom in other parts of the world. So some key capabilities, again, it's widely distributed, highly programmable, many users at the same time. You can use it for classes, or if you just want to hammer away at it. And again, encouraging hardware support for programmable abstractions. So thinking about across this computing continuum of options, again, many of us are not IoT people on our team, so we're really trying to understand how to best weave in IoT and edge cloud along with traditional computing. So just very quickly, building a testbed software is software and usability are big issues for this. It's kind of key to our operations. It supports the capabilities and makes the testbed easy to use. Part of the issue with testbeds is they have this lingo around how do you get a slice of a testbed or how do you do this? So we're aiming to automate parts of a testbed that are well understood. We're also trying to delineate between the testbed service itself and your experiment. Some people want access to both, but we're trying to make a distinction of it's like when you get a cloud resource at Amazon, you don't want to necessarily see all the bare metal stuff. You want to know how you store your S3 buckets. So we're trying to make this red line but we are also amenable to people wanting to see everything. Quick experimental workflow. Again, I'm not going to go through this, but basically you design the experiment, you prototype it, go through all this, and in our ideal world, you save the collected data and you share it. And we are going to provide pointers to where if you want to share your data with others to redo their experiments, you can do it and publish your results in a paper. Data, this is something that I could, if people want to drop me a line after, we always are looking for advice on data. Everything from if you want to produce and store data artifacts, this is vexing with how large they're getting. The types of data people are bringing can vary. People are thinking about how to do federated learning or privacy preserving machine learning. That helps introduce different types of data traditionally you don't see in a test bed. Maybe things that in the past are PII, but they're dealt with a little bit differently. So thinking where the data is in the long run, how people get access to it, because we're federally funded, we think about those things so it's useful to people. So just a few more slides, some example use cases, some potential uses, again, for measurements, to do bump of the wire measurements as you're trying to get your application to run at super high speed to see where you can measure it all on the path and all along this distributed test bed. Definitely hardware accelerated switching. We're trying to partner with NIST and different organizations that are really interested in P4 and programmability. In network inferencing for AI, just any kind of AI use you can think of. And one of our main goals that's different with this test bed is we are going to connect to the real internet. So connecting your experiment, which maybe previously was inside your lab, connecting it to the real internet and other very large test beds, like there's NSF ones called Powder and Cosmos that are huge wireless test beds at scale. There's cloud test beds. There's one at Argonne called Chameleon. So keeping in mind that this will touch the real internet, but we will figure out how to not trash the real internet with our access policies. So I work in the area of adversarial AI. So one of the things I would like to use this for is to test attack scenarios. Only in about the past 8 months, the first machine learning CVE in the NIST database was put in there. So people are starting to do more research on AI attacks. Examples like model stealing, where recently an attacker can fully recover the functionality with similar fidelity to the original mode. We think about attacking the machine learning supply chain, where you compromise the model, and in some of these other things like SAGE, this test bed that's looking at doing AI for science, they are worried about an attacker compromising the machine learning model, which is on an IoT device. And if you compromise it in that case, you could interfere with real science results, and that could be a problem. So we're not so much the stop sign example is more kind of, if you've seen this in the press, where you could put these black stickers on a stop sign to fool a Tesla. That it's a little more like a party trick, and we're not kind of thinking about those things that are cute, but you don't really see them in the wild. We're really thinking about actually what can people do to manipulate the model through malicious inputs and actually have an effect? Kind of like this one on the right, where you interfere with something from a remote distance, you interfere with somebody's Alexa device and attack it by having them buy a bunch of stuff they don't want. So that's a very quick overview. I wanted to stay within time. To reiterate, this is a National Science Foundation grant. It's international. Our construction ends in about a year to 18 months. We want people to use this. I'm going to get off screen share. I'm happy to take some questions or email me. Okay, I think I stopped the screen share. So that's my brief overview.
Okay, Robert, are you there? Okay, we have time for a little bit of questions. So you can type it in the Q&A. But maybe what I can start with the question first for Anita is that, well, thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. And you're talking about the network for Fabric. What about in terms of use case, or like what's going to be the user experience of people using this versus what they're used to right now with the internet?
Right. So they're going to go to a portal and they're going to set up their experiments. We're going to make it very usable where it's like, I have an experiment where here's the resources I want. I want access to optical, and then I want access to, it's going to be almost like a clickable menu. I want to try this. I want to try a command and control bot on the real internet. And they'll select, I want to try it in 3 different places. So you'll be presented with what are the things you want to test, where do you want to test it, and how long do you want to set it up for? And you can set it up for as long as you want. And then do you have data? Do you need data? If you don't have data, we can help you try to get access to it.
Okay.
That's in a nutshell. We're trying to make it usable.
Right. Okay. And okay, yeah. So I think you answered this. People are looking for slides, so I guess you can make the slides available to us, and we can send it to the attendees. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Yeah, I can send them to you, and you can distribute them as you see fit.
Okay. And I think Elsa has a question.
Yeah, just a quick question about the logistics. Can non-academics, people in industry, build a team and get resources and get involved?
100%. And that's what we really, really want, is to not have just academics do it. So the way it would work is when let's say we're open for business, it's going to be roughly December 2021. You go and you say, I want an allocation because I'm testing out this. I'd like to use it for 6 weeks. It's all free. And you just we say get in the queue, although usually there's not a wait for these type of things, but we absolutely want industry people to use this.
Great, thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Are there any further questions in the Q&A? All right.